Hi everyone, this is an online lecture for Introduction to the subject of Business Economics. We'll touch on the overview of the subject of economics, what is it about and why you need to study the subject. Now for many of you, economics is a new subject. Let's take a look at what is economics. In economics, there's always a differentiation between micro and macro. Okay, but in this first topic we have mentioned in lecture, this introduction to economics is taken by both batches of students taking micro and macro. Okay, because the fundamentals are similar. Okay, now how do we differentiate between micro and macro? Microeconomics is about the small details. You break up the economy into small parts like slices of pizza, and then you analyze it under a microscope. So we talk about the different players within an economy, individuals, okay, consumers like you and I, firms who are producing goods and services, markets and industries. Okay, within one economy is broken up into different parts that we study in detail. Macroeconomics is different. Macroeconomics look at the big picture, the economy as a whole. All right. So when we study macroeconomics, we deal with country measurements. Okay, national, overall, total, aggregates. Okay, those kind of overall measurements. We also look at how an economy interacts with another economy on an international basis. So macroeconomics is about the big picture. Okay, we study things in general as a whole. Now, economics centers around a fundamental problem, and that's a problem of scarcity. Now, scarcity in the simplest terms means things not enough. Okay, and this problem is faced by every person, every firm, and every country. So economics is about dealing with this problem. This problem is everywhere, is always present. Okay, that's why we have to study economics. Therefore, economics is about how people, firms, and societies choose to use limited and scarce resources to satisfy unlimited ones. There's scarcity because people have unlimited ones, and economics is about how best can people, firms, and societies go about in satisfying these wants with limited resources. Now, to understand what are the limited resources that an economy might have, we categorize resources into a few categories like land, okay, labor, human and physical capital, and entrepreneurship. Let's take a look at what these categories mean. Now, for land, it refers to anything that's naturally occurring that can be used as a good or service. So this includes most of the natural resources, like some countries, the Middle Eastern countries, have lots of crude oil. Some countries produce a lot of sea products. Some countries have huge national parks that can be used as a tourism attraction. So these are the examples of how natural occurring resource, right, which we call land, can be used as a good or service. All right. For labor, it refers to the work, time, and effort that people devote to the production of goods and services. Now, this does not differentiate the work that the people are actually doing. It can be factory workers, farmers, doctors, lecturers, and so on. Okay, it just means that the work, time, and effort that people put into work that produces goods and services. Okay, so no distinction with what work the person is actually doing. Okay, so just labor hours that this economy can generate, all right, based on the number of people that can work. Now, capital comes in two forms. It can be physical capital, like tools, machines, instruments. The hardware that's used to create goods and services, we categorize it under physical capital. Okay, the hardware. Now, human capital, okay, is the knowledge and skill that the people possess. This comes from education, training, work experience that the people has, and this can be used to generate goods and services. So human capital is like the more intangible quality that the people has, while physical capital is a hardware, all right, that's used to produce goods and services. You can understand human capital is like a subset of labor, the qualifying attribute to labor. Okay, labor is quantitative, the whole number of people that a country has or economy has. Human capital is a qualifying factor. How knowledgeable are these people? How skilled are these people? Okay, how much education and training do they have? How much work experience? So this is like the qualifying definition of the people that a country has. Entrepreneurship is a very specific kind of skill that allows individual or group of people to develop new ideas, to open up new markets, come up with something new through the organization of labor and capital and land. Okay, they're able to come up with something new and open up new markets. This very specific type of skill is called entrepreneurship and involves a lot of risk taking as well. But the rewards are, of course, huge. Okay, comparable to the risk that they took. So these are very specific type of skills that open up new markets. That's very important to any economy. Now, the amount of resources that we have is limited. We don't have, like, for example, unlimited land. We don't have unlimited population. We don't have unlimited capital or entrepreneurship. All these resources that we have just gone through are limited in nature. But on the other hand, human wants are unlimited. We want better and more things all the time. Now, when you put both these factors together, we have a problem of scarcity. Things are not enough. Okay? Because on one hand, resources are limited. We don't have infinite amounts of everything, but our wants are unlimited in general. Okay? Now, because of this, we always have a problem of scarcity. Okay, which means that we always have to deal with this problem of things not being enough. Now, this problem of scarcity is faced by everyone, every firm, every country. No one gets away from it because everywhere you see the same phenomenon. Human wants are limited and resources are limited. So this makes economics a very important subject because we always have to confront this problem and make the best out of scarcity. Now, because scarcity is always with us, things are always not enough. As an economy, we have to make choices. Choice as to what we want to produce that can best mitigate the problem of scarcity. We can never resolve it, but what is the best thing that we can do in face of scarcity? What are the goods and services we should produce, and how should resources be allocated so as to the best way that we can face scarcity as a problem. Now take note, every choice incurs costs. Okay, every time a choice is made, you generate some benefits and something else is lost. Okay, now this loss is a result of foregoing benefits from the alternative that was not chosen. This important concept is known as opportunity cost. When you choose something, you have to let go of another. You can never choose two things at the same time. So in the lecture, we have talked about this. When we make a choice, okay, you have chosen to attend lecture, you cannot do something else because you have chosen to go to lecture. That something else becomes your opportunity cost. Now, we also made a point that in the lecture that a lot of people may make the same choice. Okay, just like a lot of students may choose to attend lecture, but they may be paying a different opportunity cost because their alternative could be different. Therefore, opportunity cost is measured by the next best alternative. Now, we had this example in lecture whereby we want to decide how to spend $1,000. Our first choice, what we really want, is a short holiday in Australia, okay, for instance. Our second choice would be to buy an iPhone. Our third choice to buy a TV set, okay? So obviously we'll choose the first choice, what we really want, okay? Now, what is the opportunity cost of making that decision? That opportunity cost would be our second choice, the iPhone. Now, it cannot be iPhone plus the TV set because we only have $1,000. Okay, it's a second choice, the second best alternative that we let go because we wanted the first choice. This second choice, the next best alternative, is our opportunity cost. Okay, that's how it's measured. It's always the next best alternative, that second choice that's being let go because we made a decision, which is our first choice. Now in the lecture, we studied the PPF, the Production Possibility Frontier, as a model to look at some of the concepts that we have studied so far. Now the PPF is a diagram that is used to show the possible combinations of two goods that a country can produce. Now we assume that all resources are fully and efficiently employed. Everything that a country has, all the resources that it has are being put to use. Okay. Now it can be used to illustrate the concept of scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost, which is what we have gone through so far. Okay. It appears in the form of a diagram. Let's take a look at it. Now this is the PPF. Now PPF is a diagram with two axes. This is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. These are common mathematical denominations. Now on these two axes, it measures two different goods that we assume that the economy can produce. Of course, it's a simple model. We only have two goods. Okay. Example will be rice on the y-axis and sugar on the x-axis. Now there are several points on the diagram that can show the concepts that we have studied so far. Now, this is the PPF. Now, this is the maximum extent of rice and sugar that an economy can produce given how much resources that it has. Now, the resources are the categories that we have gone through earlier: land, physical capital, human capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. Okay. Now, given what it has, the maximum extent of rice and sugar that it can produce is this curve that we call the PPF. Now, B will be a point whereby the economy only produces rice. All the resources are used to produce rice. Okay, so zero sugar and all rice. Okay, compare this with point A, zero rice, okay, and all sugar. Okay, now if you don't want extreme points, you can choose a combination on C and D. Okay, whereby you produce some rice and some sugar. Okay, so these points on the PPF are possible points that you can produce. Now, point E is a possible point as well, but it's an inefficient point because you're within the PPF, you're inside the PPF. You're producing less rice and sugar than what you could if you put all your resources to use. So this is an inefficient point. All right, you're producing less rice and less sugar than your maximum you're able to. So point E is an undesirable point. Okay, you're underperforming. Point F is impossible point. It's unattainable because you don't have the resources possible to produce point F. Okay. Now, these points represent the few concepts that we have been talking about so far. Now, point F shows you scarcity. It's not able to, the economy is not able to attain any point outside of the PPF. This PPF, this boundary here is a maximum extent, all right, of these two goods that this economy can produce. So point F, which is outside of this boundary, is not possible. Okay, so it shows you scarcity. Things are not enough. All right. Now, because things are not enough, you got to choose. You can choose to produce all rice, okay, point B, all sugar, point A, or combination C or D. Okay, so when you make a choice, you must give up some of the other. All right, so from point B to point C, you can see that the amount of rice goes down a little bit, okay, but you get some sugar. All right, so to obtain one, okay, you must give up some of the other. Okay, now this opportunity cost is reflected by the fact that there's two products here. When you want more sugar, you must give up some rice. So rice is the other alternative, is the second choice, because this economy can only produce two products. So the other one must be the next best alternative, the second choice. So if you want more sugar, you must give up some rice. So this reflects opportunity cost. Okay, to have one more unit of sugar, you must give up some rice. All right. So this PPF gives you an idea of the three concepts, the very important concepts that we have talked about so far. Now, PPF comes in two shapes. The first one that we can talk about is a concave shape that looks like this. This is a concave shape. Now, concave shapes has a representation. It reflects increasing opportunity cost. Now, how does this work out? Now, let's follow the points from point A to point B to point C. Now, assuming the economy starts production at point A, where it produced 6 million kg of rice and 4 million kg of sugar, and the economy wants more sugar. Okay, now initially to get from point A to point B, where the economy has more sugar, you only give up 1 million kg of rice. Now take a look at what happened from point B to point C. From point B to point C, to get another million kg of sugar, you now got to give up 2 million kg of rice. Okay, so when you get to the extreme points, you must give up more and more of the other good. Okay, now this reflects increasing opportunity cost. Now why does the economy sees increasing opportunity cost when you approach the extreme points? Now we did a demonstration in lecture whereby we assume that an economy has a variety of resources. Some resources are better suited into rice production or sugar production. Now when you want all resources to produce one kind of good, okay, you have to give up resources that could be very well suited to produce the other one, which is rice. Okay, so when you want to produce more and more sugar, you have to give up some land, for instance, that's much better in producing rice. So you're going to give up a lot of rice production for some increase in sugar, because that resource at the end may not be very suitable to producing sugar, but you want it anyway. Okay, so a concave PPF reflects an unevenness in suitability, okay, of the resource in producing either rice or sugar. Okay, so it assumes an unevenness. That means some resources are better suited for either of the good. Okay, so which is why when you want a lot of just one thing, one good, okay, you're going to give up a lot of the other as you approach the maximum amount. Okay, a straight line PPF, on the other hand, is reflecting constant opportunity cost. The exchange is always the same. Okay, you want 1 more million kg of sugar, you always give up 1 more million kg of rice. So the exchange is always constant. This is reflected by a straight line. Okay, so the same quantities of the other good is always sacrificed for the same quantity of one. Okay, so the sacrifice is always the same. Exchange is always the same, and this is reflected by a straight line PPF. Now take note, the PPF, which is the maximum extent of the two goods that economy can produce based on how much resources that they have, this boundary can shift. Okay, now it can shift because of two reasons. The amount of resources could be changing. That means the economy may have more land, more labor, more capital, more entrepreneurship. It can produce more, for example. Now, a change in the level of technology can also cause the maximum extent to change. For instance, the population could now be using a lot of computers, all right, or technology, and they can produce much more than using a non-digital way of production. So the level of technology and the amount of resources can change the maximum extent of production of the two goods that's reflected by the PPF. So the PPF can shift according to these two factors. Now in this example, we have an increase in resources. Could be increase in land, increase in capital, increase in labor. Okay, so you see that the maximum of rice and sugar that this economy can produce will increase. Okay, so there's an increase in the amount of rice that this economy can produce, increase in the amount of sugar that this economy can produce. We call this phenomenon an outward shift of the PPF. So PPF 1 shift outwards to PPF 2. Now when you draw a diagram, please label the axis and label the curves. Okay, and draw the arrow in the direction of the shift. Okay, so this is an outward shift from PPF 1 to PPF 2 because it's an increase in resources. Now sometimes the event may only affect the production of one good. Now in this example, you have technological advancement affecting rice production only. Okay, so the economy can now produce more rice. Okay, more rice. But for production of sugar, it remains the same. Nothing is changing for sugar. Alright, so when you combine the extreme points, PPF2 will look like this. Now we call this an outward rotation. Okay, and please label the product for rice. Okay, it rotates outwards for rice. Okay, so sometimes the event can affect the production of one good only. So please read the question carefully. In this example, we have technological advancement affecting sugar only. So if it's for sugar on this axis, it will be outward rotation for sugar. The maximum amount, okay, increase from here to here. Okay, and this is reflected by the new PPF, which is PPF2. Okay, draw the arrow. Okay, and remember to label the axis rice and sugar. Okay, so this is event affecting one good only for sugar. So the maximum amount of sugar production goes up. Remains rice remains the same. Okay, so outward rotation for sugar only. Now I left this question at the end of the lecture. Okay, is inward shift possible? What kind of events do you think will cause the PPF to shift inwards from PPF1 to PPF2? What kind of events will cause the economy to produce less of rice and sugar? Alright, we will discuss this in the tutorials. Now there are other questions other than your tutorial questions in your notes. There are other questions that are available on LMS, so please log in to LMS and click on the tab Introduction to Economics for this week's topic. Alright, and take a look at the additional material. Okay, if you have time, we will discuss this in the tutorial as well. Okay, see you guys next week.